So, what was the inspiration for your name? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So it started out, my original rap name was actually J-Rock. And that started out as a basketball nickname that uh I converted to a acronym for Just Raised on Christ. Um Once I started doing like Christian hip hop and stuff like that. Because I didn't like grow up having a desire to rap. I just was a fan of it. So when me and my homies got together to do like a mixtape for our church, I was like, well, I need a rap name because my normal name is Justin. So it's like that's not really it's not really a rapper's name. So it's just like, well, I need something different.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna do J Rock since that was my basketball nickname. I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna try to tweak it. So of course, me being me and super poetic, I was like, I'm gonna do an acronym, Just Raised on Christ, because I grew up in the church and this, that, and the third. So I was like, all right, bet. And then at the time, I wasn't listening to secular music, and of course, once I was informed of like Kendrick and TDE and stuff like that, I found out that they also had a label mate named J Rock, but of course it was spelled different. So I'm just like, there's no way. And then when I started dropping music, I noticed that there were like 1,000 different J Rocks with a whole bunch of different variations. So I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna be able to cut through all of this and for people to find out who I am. So I ended up at the time I was in Ruslan's Patreon, and I ended up having a conversation with him and my homeboy, and just talking about a lot of different things, musically, and just um, the one thing that came up was the name and how to do something more marketable. And we ended up, I was like, well, maybe if I just shorten it to like just some, I'm in my mind, I was like something more simple that people can remember. That's not too long. That's straight to the point. I was like, maybe just raise. And I was like, well, how should I spell it? Because I feel like just raise spelled out would be too long. And I was like, maybe JUSRSD. And I was like, no, I don't like the way that look. And so then we landed on JUSRZD. And so that's kind of how it came about.
How would you describe your music? Like, what's the inspiration behind your sound?
For me, my moniker is free soul to the soul's free. So pretty much just exploring whatever sound that interests me. Like for me, I enjoy creative melodies and hard 808s. So like it that can range from boom bap, that can range from like soulful stuff, that can range from like trappy stuff, just melodic stuff, jazz type stuff, even some rock stuff for real, for real. So as long as it has a interesting melody to me and the drums are hitting, it doesn't matter what genre for me. And it's funny because the way I kind of found my sound, because at one point in time when I was first doing CHH or doing the whole rap scene or whatever solo, I was more so trying to, of course, like every artist, trying to find that sound. And I was, of course, doing different things. I started doing like trap music and stuff like that when I first started rapping. And then I started trying to dabble into like the more wavy stuff. And then I just kind of looked inwardly and I was just like, I'm a kid who grew up kind of hood adjacent, but also in the church. And then I grew up on like old school gospel music and old school R&B. So it's just like just kind of combining the roots of what introduced me to music into how I like to approach music. So it's going to be a lot of harmonies, a lot of melodies, a lot of soulful takes, and a lot of soulful vocals. And then with hip hop, I've been writing poetry since I was like 8. So I've always been a fan of just like metaphors and similes and just the structures of poems and raps and stuff like that. So the pen's always been there. So it's just like it just never was something that I was just like,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm gonna be a rapper. It was just like, nah, I write poetry to like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
deal with my emotions. So it was like, anytime I would have like an emotional high or an emotional low, I'd write and I'd write poetry. So it was never something that I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna perform this. It was just like, nah, I just do this to get this off my mind. And so it was just going through that and then
Yeah.
becoming a fan of hip hop, growing up in the 90s and stuff like that. Just being exposed to so much dope lyricism and dope creativity, hip hop wise, it was just like, man, I'm just a fan. And then just to see myself now from then, it's just like, I would have never thought that this is something that I'd be doing. So
Yeah.
it's interesting how a guy kind of brought it all together. Like even just thinking back to, like I said, how I was introduced to music or just like old school R&B and old school gospel. So like it's a lot of soul in my music and in my sound. So
You said like you're big on like the melodic and then like the hard 808s. Um Trey God, he just released that song Bruce 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you heard it yet, but
nah, I haven't heard it yet.
it's a dude, it's a banger, but it's when you said that it reminded me of that song um because there's a beat switch up in the middle, but it's such a simple beat, but it's so effective because all it is it's a piano melody
Mm,
with like this like hard hitting 808 and like the and man like it always reminds me when I hear beats like that just how effective like dude just like keys and 808s just go so well together in my opinion. I
they
don't know if
do.
that I don't know if you feel the same, but like
They
anytime I
do.
hear keys with a nice yeah, yeah. If it's like keys with a nice trap beat and like a nice 808, I don't know why. It's a personal preference thing to me for sure, but like man, like it hits so hard and it's man, it's like I'm like vibing.
Right.
So
Nah, it definitely is. And I like Trey Gad. I remember we did a show together years ago. I want to say it
yeah,
was before the pandemic. And it was my first time meeting him. He's a cool dude. I appreciate him and his music.
that's
His
cool.
music is definitely is different in a good way. I like
Hmm.
his style choices.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so you how'd you link up with C4 Cortona? Um, and I asked that because I feel like y'all kind of have like a similar style. Because he's kind of on the gritty end, but
Mhm.
your style really suits that style too. So how did you two end up linking together?
Through TLS, honestly. He's homies with of course like Q Flow and Prodigy, and a lot
Yeah,
of the more gritty members of the TLS, and me being in proximity with them because we still haven't even actually like met in person or nothing like that yet. But I remember having this song and all I had was the hook at the time, and of course just dealing with the frustrations of dealing with like the algorithms and social media and stuff like that, and they're consistently changing, not for the
yeah,
creators' benefit, but to their detriment sometimes. And it's just like if you don't pay attention to the
yeah,
way they're changing, you'll get left. And I was getting left because I didn't understand it at the time. So it was like, man, I'm frustrated. And it's funny because I want to say he dropped Hideous, his EP Hideous. And I remember listening to it and he had a couple of songs up there where he was doing some melodic stuff. And I was just like, I never heard this from C4 before. Like I've only heard the gritty boom bap type of style. And he has the perfect voice for that type of style. But
oh
through
yeah,
the different conversations that we've had, like he's shown me some of the stuff that he has that's like sitting and tucked and unreleased. And he can get off on some melodies. Like he low key C4 got that bag in him. So it was just interesting. It was interesting seeing that side of him. And I was just like, yo, low key, I can hear you on this record. So I sent it to him and he was just like, yo, I love this joint. And so I was like, all right. So then I sent it back to him with my verse on it. And then he sent me his verse. I want to say maybe like a week or two after that. And then It was just that. And then all I had to do was make a cover art for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and that was Rat Race, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When because I heard that and I saw you were on there, and I was like, man, like, and I heard it because I had heard your music before,
Mm,
and I was like, man, those two probably like that's probably the best match for that type of beat. I was like, it just made sense. Like I saw it, I was like,
yeah.
it's I saw the song "See for Cortona" just raised. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And the
So,
funny thing is, like I'm a big proponent of like just allowing people to express creative freedom. So like I'm a big
mhm,
proponent for like a juxtaposition of like styles and sounds. So
mhm,
I love grabbing people from the gritty side, putting them on a more soulful record, or grabbing um somebody who's more trappy and maybe throwing them on like a rock type record or something like that. Like I like kind of putting pieces together to see them fit and to challenge artists to like push the envelope. You know what I mean, artistically, because sometimes artists
yeah,
can get they can get complacent in their style and in their groove, and it's just like that's all I know how to do. And for some artists, that's true. That's all they know how to do, so that's where they stay at. But for others, it's just like if you never push yourself and challenge yourself to do something different, you never get better, in my opinion. So it's just like
yeah,
I always like doing that for
absolutely,
people.
yeah. So, how has God impacted your musical journey up to this point?
Um, Man, heavily. To keep it short. But just to expound on that, just man, like I said, rap was never something that I ever saw as anything more than something to admire from a distance. Like it was never something I was just like, I'm gonna be a rapper. I'm gonna do this as a career. Like it was like, nah, I'm just a fan. Like I enjoy
Yeah,
uh, listening to mixtapes and listening to different rappers. I like Dipset. I like Outkast. I like Wayne. Like it's a whole. It was. It was just like I just enjoy this era of music, and it was just like still loving my gospel music, still loving the R&B and stuff like that. So it was just I was just a fan of great music, and as I got older, I started to love instrumentation and different things like that. And it was funny because um, I always wanted to sing, but I was always super shy. Like I grew up singing in choirs and stuff like that, but I was always super shy, so I never really wanted to do like solos and stuff like that. I was just like, nah, just let me be in the tenor section in the back. We cool. I'm good. And I was just too shy to like be the look at me solo type of person. I was just like, nah, I'm too introverted for that. So it was just like experience, just seeing how God has just developed the journey and developed the gift. I remember there was a time I was going to a church where it was some great singers. They had some great musical singers at that church that knew how to do all the riffs and all the runs, knew how to hit the perfect pitches and all that different stuff. And I remember I tried to sing with them, and I could hold my own a little bit, but to be fair, I didn't really know what I was doing because I never really had any like vocal training. You just grow up in a black church, you know what I mean? You just do something. You know, it's just like you either
yeah,
usher, you in the choir,
yeah,
like you're not taking vocal lessons, not like that. And I remember kind of getting phased out of that to do other things because they needed help in other areas of the church. And then trying to go back and just kind of getting my feelings hurt a little bit in that area, just because I wasn't at their caliber just yet. And it's just like, man, it's interesting how like the different gifts that God gives you, how even with the different gifts that God gives you, because we do have an adversary, he can try to deter you and discourage you from even pursuing that as something that that you could do um for God. And it's just like I remember it was a while I kind of stopped singing just because my feelings was hurt in that moment. But it was just like seeing seeing how God I pivoted from singing, sat down from that, and then started rapping, and then that took off like in the area when we was doing that for our church and in the group that I was in at the time. Then the group kind of faded out, after a while, just because life kind of pulled us all in different directions. Um, and I was just kind of left at a place where I was just like, God, I feel the burning desire in my heart to keep going with music, but I have no access for anything. Like I don't have a studio. I'm not a producer. So it's just like it's not like I can do this on my own. Like I don't have a computer. I don't have like I was just out here dolo. And so it was just like, man,
Yeah.
if I gotta give it up, I gotta give it up. Like I'm not gonna sit here and at the time I was married. We had three kids. Well, we still got three kids, but I was married with the two younger ones were like super little, so they was like fresh year, probably like 4 or 5, and I was just like, I'm not trying to leave my family out back trying to pursue something that's fleeting at this point. And so it's just like, God, if you want me to give it up, I give it up, and I ain't even gonna worry about it. And it's just like every step of the process from that moment is just being God, like confirming His word and confirming His gifting in me. From just the being finding out that my homeboy was recording, finding out that he had a studio, I was able to go in there, being able to purchase beats, being able to lease beats and even get exclusive rights from for some of them, and then just kind of developing the craft and developing the skill, and it's just like slowly but surely getting introduced to better engineering, and it's just like God just kind of been ordering the steps in the process and just kind of confirming his word and his gifting through the process, like even to the point with Rapzilla. Like this year um I got nominated for, well, I got selected for Trackstar's Next Up list in January, and then I get the notification from y'all in like March or late February that I made the Rapzilla freshman list, and I'm just like, like I wouldn't even, my mind wasn't even thinking about none of this. So it's just like, hey,
Yeah.
that's all God. Like I'm not even. It's not like I petitioned or
Oh yeah.
campaigned or nothing like that. Like I threw out a tweet joking about it. Like, hey, if y'all still, because I've been nominated 2 times before, but each time it was like a
Yeah.
surprise to me because it wasn't like I was campaigning or like trying to be on Rapzilla's jock for it or nothing like that. It just kind of happened. My name
Yeah,
got thrown in the
you
hat.
weren't like really trying.
Yeah,
Yeah, you weren't
and
like
so
actually
and
trying. Yeah.
I knew I was trying to build a fan base. So it's just like in me building a fan base, I didn't know I was on Rapzilla's radar like that to where my name would be thrown in the hat. Of course, I got packed out when it came to nominations because I ain't have fans like that. But once it came time for voting, it was like, oh yeah, I'm up out of here. I'm up out of here. But this year it ended up making it, and it was like, hey man, praise God. Like it was just more
Yeah.
confirmation, man. That's just how I look at it. So like how he's impacted it is just it's been heavily. It's been heavily by his hand and heavily by his guidance. Like how everything has just come
Amen.
about. Even with the struggles, like
Yeah.
even just being sustained even through the struggles and even wanting to give up and even saying, God, I'm gonna lay this down. I don't want it no more. It's just like, well, I still got some more for you to do. So so yeah,
Yeah.
he's heavily influenced it.
Were there moments where you like and this is getting a little deep, but like were there moments where you doubted God? Were there moments where you struggled and like even like doubted yourself at times?
Oh, big facts. It's funny because uh like my group mates and my wife were my group mates used to always call me the rock of the group. They'd be like, "Yo, you're like the foundation of the squad. Like you're the person who's got the firm foundation, got the firm head on his shoulders, or whatever." And I was just happy to be a part. So it's like I'm not looking at myself through their lenses. I'm just kind of looking at myself from like the aspect of a team project type of person. I'm just happy to just come in, do my time, and then
Yeah.
keep on moving or whatever. And I remember my wife would tell me sometimes people would come up to her and be like, "Yo, is that your husband? Like he got it, and this that, and the third." And I'd be like, "Man, you just talking because we married, you know what I mean? And we got kids. Like ain't
Hmm.
nobody tell you that for real." And so it's just like just me, just, just me being me and just being introverted and not really being the hey, look at me type of person. I was just glad to be in the number, as they say in the black church. I was just glad to be there. And it's just like I said, everything just slowly transitioned to now where I'm doing stuff and it's just me. And I'm the only one still from that group, still making music. And I'm the only one still like really pursuing stuff. And it's just like, oh, musically anyway. And it's just like, man, like I legit didn't see this for myself. And so it's just like, yeah, there was a lot of times where I was down. Like I said, when everything disbanded, it was just like, man, I don't know if I should be doing this because I feel like I should be focused on other things. I got a family. I got to make sure they good. I got to provide all this that, and the third. All the hot podcast topics. So it's just like it's like I got to do all these things, make sure my family good. And then it's just like, but I still have this desire to do music, but at the same time, I know it's expensive. I know it's gonna cost money. I don't really have the time like that to invest in learning how to do it myself. I don't really have the equipment to learn how to do it myself. I ain't have a mic, I ain't have an interface, I ain't have nothing. So it was just like, man, through the grace of God and community, I was able to get all of it. So even though my setup's not like super in depth now, like I just got a laptop with an interface and a mic and auto tune. Like that's about it. And then I record everything and then send it off to my engineer. And it's just like even how me and my current engineer met was God. Like he hit me. I did a song with called Whole Enchilada years ago. I want to say it was 2019, either 2019 or 2020, and it's featuring Rusan and Jody Jermaine. At the time,
Mhm.
uh, shout out to 48. He's my engineer now. He was engineering for Jody Jermaine at the time, and he hit me on the side. He was like, "Yo, I heard the song. I love the song. I want to know uh, if you got anybody engineering for you right now. I'd love to work with you." At the time, me and my former engineer, whole situation ended up going left. It was a big issue at the time. So I'm just like, nah, I'm kind of dolo right now. Like I don't have nobody. And I ain't really had the money to like really pay people like that. And so he was just like, yo, let's link, let's chop it up. He was just like, I even mix a record for you for free. And if you rock with it, we can build from there. And so I ended up sending him the record I got with Jared Sanders called Pure Faith and Hustle. And he ended up mixing that. The mix was fire. And we've been locked in ever since. And that was like dang near 3, 4 years ago. And
Yeah,
so it's just like I didn't know who he was and he didn't know who I was, but God put that together. So it's just like every even through the toughest of times, every step, it's just like God just keeps confirming his word. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, God closes doors for our betterment, and sometimes He leaves some open, bro. That's something I learned myself,
hmm
just just going through life. But it's in those moments where you gotta really like grit your teeth, and like really talk to God. At least in my experience, like, and that's that mustard seed faith, right? That's
right,
that's that's that faith. Um,
right.
so, but that's cool, man. I'm glad everything worked out for you, bro. Honestly, I'm a, I mean, I ain't ashamed to admit I'm a fan. So,
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that.
um, yeah, for sure.
Even that
What?
still shocks me at times when people tell me that. Like, man, I'm a fan of your stuff. I'll be like, really? not not that my stuff. Like I know I know. Like I don't want to take that as like false humility or anything. It just shocks me to hear that because of
Yeah,
everything that I've been through and everything that's transpired with me musically. Like I know I put out good music, but it's still it's just a wow, look at God type moment for me anytime somebody says that to me because it's just like, hey, I appreciate it. Like that, it's encouraging for me to hear.
yeah, yeah, for sure. What's a I guess on the topic of topic of God, is there a Bible verse or a few Bible verses that you kind of default back to, either when whether you're struggling or whether you're not struggling?
Um, yeah, It's definitely a few. My mom's favorite scripture was Psalm 91. And yeah, reading that as a child and reading that as an adult definitely hits different. Um once you live life and experience a few things, you're just like, oh, I get it.
Yeah,
I get why that hits the way that it hits. Um
yeah.
I want to say it's Proverbs, it's either Proverbs 5:3 or Proverbs 3:5. Uh just talking about acknowledging him in all our ways, if I'm not mistaken. Um and then I want to say my personal favorite chapter in the Bible is John 15. Um, just because I feel like that chapter is Jesus praying for his disciples and just praying to God and just kind of pouring out his heart. And you get to really see his heart for his people in that prayer, and just how his desire is for us to be one with him as he is with the Father. And it's just like, I don't know, that just hit different for me when I finally like sat down and like read that growing up as like a teen and growing up as like a young adult. It was just like, man, like that's his desire for each and every one of us, is for us to be one with him as he is with the Father. And we can only do that through him. So it's just like
Yeah,
it just, to see his heart in that moment, just, I don't know, it did something to my spirit. It did something to my
yeah,
spirit.
facts. Yeah, straight up. Was there where what was the moment where you kind of had your like your realization, like, okay, yeah, Jesus is like for me, like God is with me. Like, where can you recall like a moment where that kind of happened to you?
Um, yeah, I want to say, because I remember growing up, I got baptized twice. Because the first time I did it, I was super young, and the second time I did it, I think was a couple years later, where I understood it a little bit better. Um, but I'm talking about like 8, 10, like I was super young. And then, of
Yeah,
course, living life, being a teenager, just experiencing more things. But I want to say it was probably when I really started to take, like, I've always had an affinity for God. Like, I've always had uh keen ears towards his voice. Like, I've always, anytime somebody say God speaking, I'd always be quick to listen, and I'd always take that seriously. Um,
amen.
and so it was just like, but that doesn't mean that I was applying everything that I knew. So I don't want to get that misconstrued.
Yeah,
I was still out here doing stupid stuff.
yeah,
But I had an affinity for God. But, but I want to say it was probably, it was probably, I want to say the springtime '07. Um, springtime '07. I had just turned 18. Um, and I was pretty much doing what I wanted to do. I was in college. Uh, well, I was in community college, but it was my second semester in college. I had this is gonna be this is gonna be dumb, but I got to college. Of course, it's college, so it's freedom. So I'm like, oh, I'm not. If I don't show
yeah.
up to class, you're not gonna call my mama. I'm out.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, I
so,
relate to that so much, bro.
so the first semester was fall '06, and I pretty much I want to say I don't know if I technically failed or got incomplete, but in the, the little college greeting course that they make everybody do, to like welcome to college course. I ain't go to that
Yeah, yeah,
class.
yeah,
I think I skipped like 6 or 8 classes. Like, I skipped enough to the point where it's just like I'm not even on the roster anymore. Like, I came to like the last 2 sessions,
Hey, I
and
ain't, bro. There's, I'll tell you right now, there's no judgment. There's no judgment here. I went to community college for like one semester and I dipped, dude. I was like, this is not for me. I'm out of here, bro. So I'm just telling you right now, no judgment here. Proceed.
bruh, it was so funny because I stayed the whole class, and I was like, "Hey," I went up to the professor afterwards. I was like, "I noticed you didn't call my name on the thing." He was like, after you miss a certain amount of classes, bro, you get removed from the roll. Like you get removed from the class. I was just like, oh, gotcha. How many classes is that? Like, I think it was around 6. And I think I had missed 7. And I was just like, oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. But so I ended up getting put on academic probation after my first semester. Second semester, I ain't do no better for real. So I ended up getting put on academic suspension that semester. And so I got kicked out for a semester. I had to write a letter to even come back to school. And that same time I got put on academic suspension, I ended up losing my job because I was doing too much there. I was not coming into work, calling out, all this, that, and third. So they ended up letting me go and well, firing me. And then I also ended up getting in a car accident, skipping class. I got in a car accident, ended up losing my
Oh
first
wow.
car, and
Oh
could have
man.
lost my life because I didn't have on a seatbelt, and my car spun out and it bounced off a rail,
Mm.
bounced off a rail, hit a car, bounced off that car, hit the rail again, bounced off that rail, hit the same car, and then bounced off that car again, hit the
Bro.
rail, and then backed into the same car. So yeah, the whole time. Like I said, I didn't have my seatbelt on, so the whole time I'm in the middle of, I'm like hovering above the center console while the car's spinning up. So yeah,
Yo, that's
you
wild, man.
know, I walked away from that by the grace of God with no scratches, no nothing, but just a total car.
Wow.
And I was shook because the car that I hit was like a car full of white people. And I was just like, oh, I don't know what's about to happen because they're crying and hysterical. And I'm just like,
Oh, dude.
that was my first accident. That was my first anything. I was in the car by myself. It was just it was a lot. And so in that moment, like and this all happened within the span of like I want to say had to be 2 to 4 weeks. All of this happened, and so it was just like back to back to back to back. And like I said, at the time, I always had an affinity for God, but I was out here being stupid. I was out here doing what I wanted to do, being stupid, not taking life seriously, and just shooting the breeze with everybody. And it was just like in
Yeah.
that moment, I was just like, yo, something gotta give, something gotta change. Cause like I can't like if this is what life is like living outside of God, I got to take this seriously then. Cause there's no way that I can continue to just live how I'm living. Cause one, I could have died. Two, everything is going wrong. It's like this is not working out how I thought it would. And so it was just like
Yeah.
I kind of took like
Yeah.
a 2 week break and just went on a fast from chilling with everybody and just talking to people. I just kind of went in hermit mode for like 2 weeks straight and was praying heavy, was fasting, and just was like, God, I just like rededicated my life in that moment. And it was just like, yo, I gotta take this seriously. And from that moment moving forward, still had my slip ups here and there, but from that moment moving forward, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna take this walk. I'm gonna actually walk this out for myself and take this seriously. And it's kind of been up from there.
I know you're an anime fan. Uh, give me your top three anime.
Oh, that's easy. That's not tough.
Okay,
Yu
all
Yu Hakusho is
right.
my favorite anime of all time. So we got Yu Yu
Okay,
Hakusho at number one. Number two, I gotta give it to Naruto
all
just
right,
because that story was it was beautiful. The way they portrayed it, the way they outdid everything. And my new solidified number three is Attack on Titan.
nice. Is there a rhyme or reason for that order, or is that just like the order that you watched it and then you started to really enjoy it?
So Yu Yu Hakusho was probably the first anime I ever saw that was like super raw with it. Like Yusuke had
Mm,
hands for any and everybody, and he was ready to give it
facts,
to any and everybody. So it was just like
facts.
I had never seen that before. I mean, we got Dragon Ball Z, but that was more like kid friendly than it was like Yu Yu Hakusho was more like gritty. Like, all right, we can scrap.
Yeah,
It's whatever.
yeah. Dragon Ball Z
And
was kind of tame.
right, Dragon Ball Z was kind of tame, and then um like of course Dragon Ball Z is usually everybody's opening to anime, at least over here in America anyway. So it's just
Yeah.
like that opened me up. But then when you get to see the more gritty side and the more real side in Yu Yu Hakusho, I was just like, yo, this is legit. And for Naruto, I had just started getting back into anime um because I had stopped of course watching Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that on Toonami. So that was like middle school, early high school. And then I
Yeah.
just stopped. I stopped watching it, started getting into more like adult type shows. So I kind of just fell off from cartoons altogether. And then I remember this has got to be like 2009, 2010-ish. I remember going to different family gatherings and all my little cousins, because I grew up in an old family. So like all my first cousins are like 50 and 60. And it's just like I'm only in my 30s. So it's like y'all old. And, and my little cousins, they're like my second cousins are like around my age, and then my cousins, I got other cousins that are younger than me. And I remember them always being at the family function talking about anime. And I'd just be like, I remember watching y'all when y'all was babies, and now y'all are like fully functioning tweens and teens, like talking about anime, and I have no idea what y'all are talking about. So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna start watching anime so I can have something to talk about with them. And so that's why I started watching anime again. And I want to say this was either right around the time I had got married or right before I had got married. I don't remember when I started watching it again because I got married in 2011. Uh, so it was around like I said 2010 2011 when I started watching it again, and I want to say Bleach and Naruto were like the first two that I picked up and started actually watching. And I don't
Yeah.
know, I just kind of fell in love with the story of Naruto, like from the kid all the way to the teenager to the point where I even found myself reading the manga before they finished animating the rest of Shippuden. So I was just like, yeah, if this show got me like this, like the story was dope. They kind of
Yeah.
fumbled it at the end, pulling out Kaguya, but yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
overall, it was overall, it was a dope ride. It was a dope experience. And then Attack on Titan
Yeah.
has just been a beautiful story from day one, like out the gate. That that whole story was just like, wow, like y'all went in, like from season one to the multiple finales that they've had. It's just like
Yeah.
yeah, this was a solid story. And they didn't, I don't feel like they fumbled the bag at the end either. I feel like they solidified everything they wanted to tell. So I
Hmm.
feel like that's a strong number three for me.
But yeah, no, Naruto for sure is my number two. Um, I gotta say Dragon Ball is my number one.
That's fair.
Um, Dragon Ball's for sure my number one. My number three, I gotta say it's a tie between Demon Slayer and we're gonna go old school, Rurouni Kenshin. I want to say
Okay. And
that
I've heard
that
only
one's kind
good
of up in
things
the
about
air.
Rurouni. I've never personally watched it. Because I would never catch Rurouni Kenshin or Inuyasha in order. So it
Yeah,
would always be some random episode when I saw it. So I
yeah,
never understood what I was watching.
yeah, yeah. Facts. Yeah, that's I had to ask because you post that dope content on Instagram. I think you do. Do you do like reviews? I think you do like top threes, top fives, or you kind of like break down different
Yeah.
shows, right? That's what you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just recently started. It's funny, man. Let's touch on that because that's in and of itself is hilarious to me because so while dealing with the frustration of the algorithms and the struggles I was getting with the algorithms, um, I started watching other people's content and stuff like that, and I was just like, man, I want to do stuff, but I'm not a stand-up comedian. Even though I feel like I'm funny, I don't feel like I'm like stand-up comedian funny. Like I feel like I'm conversational funny. So it's like I,
Yeah.
I don't know. So it was like I do enjoy anime. I enjoy comic book stuff and stuff like that. So I was just trying to think of content ideas to get more people engaged. At the time, because it was just like the music stuff, I wasn't getting any play on the music stuff. So I was just like, man, and granted, that's because I was super raw with the way I was shooting it and different stuff. I was trying to figure it out, but was struggling at the same time. And so I was just like, man, I need something that's a little bit more engaging. So I started seeing these different talking head videos that different comedians would put up with different scenarios. And then I started seeing some on the anime side too. And I was like, you know what? I could do that. I mean, I watch anime, so I could talk about it. I watch comic book stuff. I'm kind of a blurred, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I could do that. So I just started doing it, and then it started getting engagement. And I was just like, yo, that's dope. And I've always wanted to do like a I didn't even really want to do reviews, but I always wanted to do like a podcast with some of the homies that I know are big into anime and comic book stuff and just chop it up and just like have a good time conversationally. I don't really have a setup to do that just yet. So it's just like instead of waiting for the setup to do that, I could legit just review shows and movies and episodes and different things like that and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So once I switched my schedule at the top of the year, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna commit to this and I'm gonna start doing reviews every week. So every week I've been consistent with it. Every Thursday, I'm dropping reviews
That's dope.
on different shows, different movies, and all that stuff, and just trying to find other ways to create and to engage with people because the anime and comic book the blurred community the nerd slash blurred community in general is like massive. So it's just
Yeah.
like just being able to tap into that, and it's an interest of mine. So it's just like I enjoy talking about
Well,
this
it's easy
stuff.
to talk about. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I enjoy talking
It's
about it,
easy to
and I
talk about.
enjoy seeing other people talk about it. And as long as they're respectful. I mean, some people be wilding, but
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
long as
bro.
they're
Yeah. For
respectful, I enjoy people. I enjoy watching podcasts and people talk about it. I enjoy talking about it myself. So the like I said, the goal was a podcast with the homies. Like shout out to Q Official. That's my homie. We talked about it a couple times, but I don't think between his schedule, my schedule, and then just trying to have the setup and the time to do it, because he's in Las Vegas and I'm in Virginia, so that trying to find the time to do all that with the different time zones, it's a lot. So it's just like
yeah.
trying to get eventually to get a podcast off the ground and do that. But right now, I'm just trying to be consistent with these reviews. So yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, keep it up, man. Because every time you pop up in my feed, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. I'm ready. It's just
Yeah, it's funny.
it's just cool, bro. Because it's like I don't follow anybody else that does that. And it's funny because uh, as far as CHH goes, you're like the only person that I'm aware of that actually does that within CHH. So
Oh, for
whenever you
sure. I'm
pop
definitely
up,
the only person in CHH. I'm
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
the only
yeah,
person.
it's just funny to me. It's like, okay, yeah, for sure, yeah, like, I'm down with this. Let's go. Yeah, you know. So,
Yeah, I was about to say
oh
it's
man,
funny because my feed is all over the place. Like if you look at my Explore page, you're gonna see anime content, dark humor, stand-up comedy. It
yeah,
is just a lot of it, like a little bit of music and a whole lot of everything else.
yeah,
Podcast snippets is a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's just my Explore
uh,
page is hilarious to those who enjoy comedy. Yeah, I'll say that. Comedy, anime, and comic book stuff. It's just like that's a lot of what my feed is.
yeah. How would you encourage your listeners or people that know you, people that don't know you? How would you encourage them to seek God and to really put God at the forefront of everything they do?
Now, how you gonna ask me the anime question? Talking about that's gonna be the hardest one, and you gonna ask me this one?
I like to throw in the little plot twist, bro. That's me. I love doing that
No,
stuff.
the anime question was easy. Now I gotta think. It's like,
Yeah.
just encouraging them to see God, man. At the end of the day, life is hard for everybody. Like at the end of the day, we go through trials, we go through tribulations, we go through struggles, and life is hard. At the end of the day, God is still good, even though life is hard, and even though struggles hit, even though circumstances that are outside of our control happen all the time, even though we lose people we love way quicker than we would like to. Even though it's just so many things that can possibly change and possibly be that could affect you from a day to day, that could be challenging. Um, but at the end of the day, if God is your source, if God is your if God is your God, if Jesus is your Lord and Savior, if God is your source, let him be your source. Tap into his source. Tap into to not only just Jesus, but just tap into uh therapy, get help when it comes to just dealing with ourselves. It's a lot of times it's some people who don't even like being quiet or don't know how to be quiet and don't know how to be alone because of so many things that go on in their mind and so many things that troubles their thoughts. And it's just like it's a lot of times a lot of our issues aren't with outside forces. A lot of them be internal. And we got to
Mhm.
do the work to fix those things. And through Christ, through therapy, through they're not oppositions. They go hand in hand. And it's easy
Yeah.
to look at life in a negative view when you have all these different things against you or you feel like you have all these things against you. But I'm telling you, if you put your trust I'm telling you this from experience. If you put your trust in Jesus and you let him be your source and you really allow him to do the work inside of you and lead, guide, and direct you, life becomes so much easier in the fact that he sustains you through the highs, through the
Mhm.
lows, through
Yeah.
money. Money is a good resource, but it's not the end all be all. Love
Mhm.
is a good resource, but it's not the end all be all. Relationships is a good resource, but it's not the end all be all. At the end of the day, if God is your source, let him be your source. He is the only one who can fulfill any hole in your mind, any hole in your heart, any hole in your spirit, any hole in your inner man. He's the only person that can fill that void. It doesn't matter what you do, what you accomplish, and what you succeed in or what you receive. If it ain't Jesus, it ain't gonna fulfill you. So that's what I
Amen.
would say.
Yeah. So that, but yeah, this has been such a dope conversation, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. Um, I pray that the Lord continues to work through you. That He continues to sustain you and be your eyes in the dark, bro.